slow start. All right, John, you ready for a few rapid fire for real or Fugazis?
Always.
Always ready. Okay, for those of you who are new to the pod, just tuning in, we appreciate you. First, A, tell a friend. B, this is called For Real or Fugazi. We do this generally on Mondays. I'll take 5 or 6 topics, just quick one-hit sentences. I'll read them as if they are fact. If John agrees with them as if they are fact, he will say for real. If he disagrees with them, he thinks I'm way off, he thinks I'm out of my tree, John will say
Fugazi.
Fugazi. It's Italian for counterfeit. All right, John. So let's rock and roll here. Let's start with a couple Texans ones. The biggest data point for CJ Stroud in the preseason, as far as evaluating him, will be the combined practices with Miami and the New Orleans Saints. For real or Fugazi?
For real. He's going to have 4 practices against them. And, of course, he'll wear a red jersey and he can't be touched. But his receivers are going to be covered. The linemen are going to be rushing him. They won't hit him. And it'll be a great test for him. And then, of course, he'll get in at least 2 of the games, maybe 3. But I can't wait to see him in those joint practices.
I can't either. That's going to be fun. We haven't had those, John, in about 4 years, right?
No, Cully and Lovie Smith didn't want to do them. It's, Nick Caserio did them every year in New England, but they leave it up to the head coach, and D'Amico's all for it.
Yep. All right, next one, sticking with the Texans. 2023 is a make or break season for wide receiver Nico Collins. For real or Fugazi?
For real, again. He's been there 2 years. He's been hurt too much. Remember, he didn't play his last year at Michigan. He's a 3rd-round pick. He's just showed enough to be so enticing. His size, his speed, his acrobatic catches in camp last year, but he just couldn't stay healthy. And they're going to address wide receiver next year more than they did this year when they drafted 2.
It's a huge year for Nico Collins. He's got to prove he can stay on the field more than anything else. He's officially injury prone, John. It's because it's not just been one injury. It's been 3 or 4 different ones that have kept him off of the field. So he is officially, according to Dr. Pendergast, injury prone. All right, next one,
He's
John.
got a chance to make a lot of money. If he stays healthy and plays well, he'll get an extension before the last year of his contract.
I agree. All right, next one, John. There was a story that came out over the weekend that Aaron Rodgers nixed a possible trade to the New England Patriots in the offseason. Of course, he wound up with the Jets. For real or Fugazi, Aaron Rodgers would have been better off going to the New England Patriots than the New York Jets.
Fugazi. Aaron Rodgers, idiosyncrasies, and Bill Belichick. Can you imagine if Belichick had Rodgers and DeAndre Hopkins?
Oh, yes.
And so Rodgers said he wanted to go to the Jets all along.
Yeah.
And that story may be true. It would have meant they'd given up on Mac Jones, because Rodgers has said in the past, before he went into the darkness, that he wanted to play a lot of more years. Mm-hmm. And then because he was unhappy the last 2 years with the Packers, he wouldn't say anything except that year. So I expect if he plays well for the Jets, he's going to keep playing as long as he plays well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. All right, sticking with the theme of Green Bay, I guess. Jordan Love recently said in an interview that the sky is the limit for Green Bay's offense this year. John, for real or Fugazi, the Green Bay Packers in the first year post Aaron Rodgers will finish in the upper half of the league in scoring. For real or Fugazi?
Fugazi. They just gave up a quarterback's one of the all-time best. I'll see some people say greatest ever, and I want to throw up. But he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And Jordan Love, they've been so lucky. Going back to the Brett Favre trade, that was initiated by Ron Wolf, the GM, and then with no interest in a quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers was there, general manager Ted Thompson took him, and he watched for 3 years. Those were 2 tremendous decisions. They got to suffer a little bit. The Texans have suffered a long time over quarterbacks for one reason or another. Yeah. It's time the Packers suffered, and it might not be Jordan Love's fault, but I don't see their offense being that high, that prolific that they're going to rank that high in points.
I'm with you on that one. I think that's a Fugazi as well. All right, 2 more, John. Let's do an Astros one here. The Major League Baseball All-Star teams will be named by the end of the month. For real or Fugazi, Framber Valdez will be the lone All-Star game representative for the Houston Astros.
Let me think one quick. I think that's for real.
Yeah.
Unless Kyle Tucker starts hitting some home runs and RBIs, his average is good. But there's so many good outfielders.
Yeah.
You know, I look at the Rangers. I look at a lot of teams. I read every box score every night. And all these teams have guys with 300 hitters and double-digit home runs. And some teams have 4 or 5. And the Astros just struggling at the plate. Lack of consistency. You know, Bregman been in a slump till he got 3 hits against the Reds in the last game, and he's been up and down. But anyway, I think now you can research this. What is the fewest number of All-Star selections the year after a team wins the World Series?
It's a great question. I don't know. That feels like one we could throw to one of those stats websites, and maybe they'll spit it back out to us. That's a great question because every team's got to have at least one. But usually just one, that designation is reserved for teams that aren't very good, as you point out. Now, if Yordan Alvarez were healthy, he would clearly be going to the All-Star game. And he may get voted in. You know, he was among the top 3 in the fan voting for outfielders at the first release of the voting, the initial wave of voting tabulations. He was 3rd among outfielders behind Judge and Trout. Because Ohtani is listed as a DH on the ballot, and Yordan's an outfielder on the ballot. So the top 6 outfielders will go to that run. They do that runoff now, you know, John, where they take the top 2 at every position, top 6 in the outfield. And Altuve is second at second base right now, but he's way behind Marcus Semien, who's probably going to win the runoff against him.
Well, first of all, if Alvarez is healthy, he'll be there, even if he just comes back for a week before the selections are made.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't get voted in, you know, he's going to get selected. Yeah. And I wish Alvarez were healthy and would compete in the home run derby.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
never
love
happened.
to see what he could do.
Yeah.
Ronald Acuna's hit like 5 or 6 home runs at 460 feet.
Yeah.
Boy, I'd love to see those guys together. And I've never seen a good explanation of why he doesn't do it. But don't you know Major League Baseball would love to have him in there?
I would predict he will never do the home run derby because of how injury prone he is. You know, if he got an oblique issue, there's no way he'd do it this year. Even if he were healthy, there's no way he'd do it this year, coming off a 4-week of oblique. The one good thing about Alvarez, well, many good things about Alvarez, but within the context of this conversation and the injuries, the one thing I'm not concerned about, as soon as it's time for him to play again, I don't even know that he needs time in Sugarland. He's a guy who can pick up a bat and just start hitting, you know, after not hitting for a month, right?
They'd have to bring in some more stands. They set the all-time record with
Altuve.
Have to bring or jack up the prices. They'd be scalping them.
Yep.
You know, the injury that he has, you got to be so careful because you can strain it again.
Yes.
And it'd be worse. It's almost like when he's 100%, they got to wait another week.
Yep.
Especially the guy that swings as hard as he
Exactly. All right, last one, John. When Jake Myers made the circus catch in the outfield to preserve Hunter Brown's win last week, Hunter Brown said he's treating Jake Myers to the butter cake at Mastro's. For real or Fugazi, John, the Mastro's butter cake is the best dessert in the city of Houston.
Well, I've only been able to eat at Mastro's once because I can't afford it. But since it's Tillman Fertitta's restaurant, I'll say that's for real.
Yeah, it's really good. Amy and I went there. We won a weekend at the Post Oak at the Texans season premiere event the Texans had last year. We won one of the raffles we won a 2-night stay at the Post Oak, Tillman Fertitta's hotel. So we kind of celebrated our anniversary 2 months later, and we went to Mastro's the night we were there. I'm same as you. That's the second time I've been. I think it's the first time I've ever been where I've actually been the one paying. You know, usually I try to piggyback Wallace Marsh when he goes to Mastro's. That's my methodology. They have an off-the-menu version of the butter cake that has blueberry. It's like a blueberry butter cake with a big scoop of ice cream on top of it.
You're killing me.
It's so good, John. So good. Yeah,
God.
it's delish. All right.